could also be open towards the best of other places.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
You said you were in Curacao and you spoke at the UNA, which is the University of the Netherlands Antilles.
Yeah.
Of course, to the professors and alumni.
Yeah.
Now, when you come to St. Martin, but let's talk about Statia. When you come here, who do you visit? And what do you try to find out from them?
Yeah. When I came to St. Martin, I tried to visit all the schools. I taped at all the schools, so at the St. Martin Academy, the Milton Peters, St. Dominic's high schools, so the high schools. I spoke to teachers. I went and hanged with guys at the rum shops or the bars.
Oh, you hang out at those places?
I hang out at those places because I think it's important to understand the everyday, exactly, the grassroots, and how people are facing and the struggles that they have to engage in. With the UNA, it was the UNA and the NAM, so the National Archaeological Institute, where I gave a talk and tried to tell them that I think that Caribbean intellectuals have to think the new world in a different way, think the 21st century and contribute to mutual understanding globally. What I did in St. Martin, they asked me to speak to the students that were going to the Netherlands, so I gave a talk, the keynote at that particular moment, to those students to try to tell them the Netherlands is what you make of it. It makes little difference to say the Netherlands is a multicultural drama, and it makes no sense to say it's a multicultural heaven. It becomes a drama, a multicultural hell, or a multicultural heaven, depending on how you as an individual deal with that situation and what you contribute to making the Netherlands your own and succeeding as an individual.
Yeah. And so who do you speak to here in St. Eustatius? You just arrived.
I just
you
arrived.
Have visited, I believe, 2 offices already.
Yes.
What are you looking for?
Well, what I did, I visited the education department and I asked them, well, how are station students faring in the Netherlands? How are they being prepared? Because many of them go to the Netherlands or they go to Curacao or Aruba. How are they being prepared? What are the difficulties they face? How are they succeeding? Is there an opportunity for them to come back and contribute to the island? Those types of things. I spoke to ordinary persons I met on the street and asked them, so how are they dealing with the best status? Are they well informed? I understood from many people that they have the sense that they're not well informed. I think that that is very important. If you're going to go through a transition, and all transitions are difficult, then people should be well informed about those transitions. There should be enough interaction and enough talk. People should be able to vent themselves, and they should be able to understand, well, okay, it's a common project, and what can they contribute to it? I think it makes little sense to make people passive and say, it's going to happen to us and we don't know. I think they should be active citizens.
Right. You went to the education department, you just explained, you spoke to some folk there.
Yeah.
What is your reaction on what you were told?
Well, I think that they're trying to do their best. It was quite interesting because whilst I was sitting there, there was a student who was heading to Curacao, and then I understood for the first time, but very deeply, how difficult it is actually for the Dutch Antilles to function. How sometimes, unwittingly, federal civil servants at Curacao do not take the needs of stations into consideration. So this girl was trying to get there and she could not understand when the school was starting. There was a intermediate at St. Martin who actually did not pay sufficient attention to station needs. So then you understand that this federation had its hiccups and handicaps.
Yeah,
and it's not hiccups and handicaps that are on the abstract level, but they actually impact everyday lives. If this student has to go to Curacao and the school starts the 17th of August, and she's only getting the ticket to leave the 1st of September because someone made a mistake and they didn't pay enough attention to inform people here, then you already have a student that's going to miss the first 2 weeks, and we know how important the first 2 weeks at university actually are.
It's like breakfast in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. So those types of hiccups, then you see how the Dutch Antilles did not work well, and maybe the best status to make it work well, that information flow will actually have to be accurate, efficient, and it will have to matter to people.
Yeah. How long is your study here on the island going to take? Well, how long are you going to be here?
I'm going to be here until Monday morning.
That's short.
So it's going to be quite short. Next year I come back again, and then I'm going to spend a couple of days again here. What I did in the Netherlands is I spoke to the Friends of Statia, which is a large organization which caters to stations. So I've been able to speak to stations there as well. And I'm just getting some snapshots, and I'm speaking to you, and I'm speaking to various people, and some people hopefully from government. again, the grassroots, as you call them, and just observing, looking at how people live their lives, and trying to get a general picture to include Statia in a book that will include all of the Dutch Antilles, but also some French islands and some British islands, to get a general field of what I call Europe and the Caribbean.
All right, so once you've gathered all this information, what happens to it then?
Once I've gathered the information, then I can write a book about it. One thing that has already come out, or it's coming out, is with Justitiële Verkenningen, which is a journal which civil servants in The Hague read. And it's a journal which will have an article of myself about the best islands and about their cultural sensitivity. So hopefully when these civil servants read that article, they will be able to get a grasp of what life is on Statia, Saba and Bonaire. In November, I go to the University of New York. I've been invited to give a talk, and I will give a talk about the Dutch Antilles, and I will try to include Statia and Saba in that talk, because I think much of Caribbean studies does not take these islands into account. Oftentimes when we speak in the Netherlands about the Antilles, we are actually talking about Curacao, if we are quite honest.
Yes, exactly. That is true, yeah.
But I think we need a broader scope of what the Antilles is. So we have to, in the Netherlands, understand that there is a place called Statia with its specificities, and it's good for us to understand it, because as professors working at universities, when we meet students coming from the Antilles, we can't just think, oh, I know Willemstad, so I know you. No. Exactly. Then we have to say, okay, these students are actually English-speaking students. They are not primarily Papiamento-speaking students. They are students who have a strong input of American culture, so they're coming out of a different experience. Students with a rich heritage. So it's important for us to know that and to include it in the curriculum.
Correct. Let me ask you this. Do you know the most important thing that Statia did in history?
I think that it was the first country to recognize the United States of America. It's very important if we are going to have good relations, let's say, with the Obama regime, and Balkan and the Prime Minister went to speak to Obama, then it would be interesting for him to say, do you know actually that we of the Dutch Kingdom, and a very small part of us, recognize your country as the first.
That's right. They sold them arms so that they could bust
and
the
sold
British
them
butt.
arms. Exactly.
When you get to New York, make sure and rub that in a little bit for me.
I will make sure to tell them that.
And then you talked about your book. I have it that you wrote more than one.
Yes.
Are they available to the public?
They are available. You can find them on Barnes or Nobles or Amazon.com or once you go on the web and you type in my name, Francio Guadaloupe, you can find the book Chanting Down the New Jerusalem, which is about Calypso, Christianity and capitalism in the Caribbean. English book. You will find a book called Zo zijn onze manieren, Visies op multiculturaliteit in Nederland, which is actually about multiculturalism in the Netherlands, so how we're dealing with difference in the Netherlands. A book that would be important for students planning to leave Statia to go to the Netherlands to read and say, okay, so this is how the Netherlands look from a multicultural outlook. I wrote a book on Brazil, Dansen om te leven, to understand the Brazilian dynamics, and I wrote a series of articles of various places.
You said you wrote the book in English, and then you're mentioning 2 Dutch titles.
I wrote books in Dutch.
How many languages have you written?
I've written books in English, Dutch, and Portuguese, and there's a French one coming out.
There's a French one as well.
Exactly.
All right. In your own words, how do you see these islands becoming Dutch municipalities? How do you feel about it? What do you think?
I think that when we waste time talking abstract jargon like neo-colonialism and so forth, that is not the right way to go. I think the right way to go is to say, what are my needs? What are my basic needs? Are my basic needs being met? And how do I engage in a fruitful dialogue with civil servants coming from The Hague, making sure that they understand our cultural sensitivities, but how do we make sure that it works? I think that these islands need support in order to actually function better, so that the youths have a better education, so that they have things to do, so that the elderly are well taken care of, so that what is called curry favor, if you wish, in the Caribbean, so that stops happening, so that every individual counts, so that we actually have a meritocracy. Based upon your merit, you actually have position.
I'm very happy that you brought that up, because that curry favor, what they call vriendjespolitiek in Dutch, is something that was practiced in the Netherlands until it's now. I'll ask